Well, hello everyone, Philosopher Stoner, making another video. This is just a brief response to a comment. There's a couple of comments that I intend to respond to. One by Frogsicle with that guy Sam Vaskin. I'm quite busy and stuff with projects and things that I still haven't finished watching enough of the guy's videos to make a very clear opinion. So it'll happen in the next week or so. Look out for that video. But anyway, so this comment I'm responding to, just another YouTuber. Sometimes I think he's a bit of, or he or she or whoever is a bit of a troll, but his comments are, for the most part, they're good, they're okay. And he asked what to do about Efilism. Now, there was recently, this was a couple of months ago, on the Anti-natalist Discord that was run by old fan, Forever Wolf Films, Amanda. They had that problem with Emendum, Gary, making those comments about basically euthanizing cats, as opposed to, sterilizing the cats, like making it so that they can't have kids and then releasing them back out into the wild. And everybody flipped out about that. And I'm not going to get too much into that. But yeah, there was a schism. There was a breakup. That thread broke down. There's a lot of infighting. So you have most of the anti-natalists are guys like David Benatar and that Magnus Winding guy and others that are just, yeah, it's good enough if you don't rape. But that doesn't solve the problem of rape. We really do have this problem of, well, that maybe it's not going far enough, but I don't know what else to expect out of people. So yeah, then Efilism was created. Now, I've had negative experiences with other anti-natalists, like that couple that I've talked about many times before that gave me the death threats. They were anti-natalist. I met them on an anti-natalist group on Facebook. And others that were all of us tend to have cognitive problems. We have an inherent bias that we're depressed. We have some kind of anxiety disorder, some kind of social anxiety, depression. I have this high functioning autism thing. We're not movers and shakers in the world. We came to this viewpoint and realization being frustrated at not achieving much success in the world. There's even like a lot of people that I've met on some of these boards where, they just complain and complain that they just want to kill themselves, but they can't find a method. And yet somehow I was able to, with a little bit of research and a little bit of networking, find the final exit network and obtain an exit. I was able to meet the right people and do enough research and do anything that, yes, I have 2 methods that I can leave here anytime I want. For a little bit of money, it cost me, like $500 for the one method, which is a chunk of money. Many people can't afford that, but still, it's a relatively peaceful death. And yes, I was able to research and obtain the information and find it and do it. Many people can't even do that. Like they're just wallowing in a kind of inability to do anything, kind of a problem. So yes, those kind of people, yes, are not going to solve the problem. They're sort of just, and much like myself, of not really much use or of adding any real value to anything or anybody. They can't even figure out how to kill themselves. It's that bad. And, Amanda, that Forever Wolf Films, old fan, was going to interview me. We were going to talk and whatever. And yeah, there's no value. There's no benefit to interviewing me. My videos, on average, I get like 40 views a video. Some videos higher, some videos lower. Yeah, no one really gives 2 shits what I have to say. But then again, I don't, make this channel exclusively about anti-natalism because I don't, I like talking about stuff. I'm just a nerd, basically. I like talking about stuff. And, I've expressed, frustration at life and everything. I have a sort of, yes, my own viewpoints, and I do happen to agree with the philosophy. But, yeah, like, with the infighting that's gone on and stuff. And like I said, that couple that I networked with, we had the same philosophical viewpoint, and we can't even get along long enough with each other to even do anything, even to meet up, even to be just friends, to have like a network. with like-minded people. We can't even do that. We're all fucking screwed up. So yeah, it's not impossible. I've argued this with other people that, it's possible to convince people. I was convinced. Originally I started off being skeptical towards religion. That led me to a kind of atheism. It led me to a kind of nihilism. I started off identifying as a nihilist. I used to go to this website, counterorder.com, run by this user named Freitas. And the website is still up, I think, although the forum and stuff has been taken down. But, a very radical, extremely negative viewpoints about a lot of things. But ultimately, in the end, the person seems to be still pro-life at some level. But none of it really made sense to me. I was like, well, how can you hold this nihilistic viewpoint and still, think that this is okay? And then, I started watching The Amazing Atheist, and I liked him. I thought he was funny. And then he started interacting with these other guys, with Amendum, and the fuck's his name? Fake Sagan. Yeah, those guys. And I remember watching those debates back in the bad old days when you could watch, YouTube response videos and stuff. And there were all these users and all these videos that I watched. And then I realized, oh yeah, wait, Amendum is actually right. These other atheists, yet they're kind of, they're just lazy. They're not like, maybe as bad as the religious people, but they might as well just be religious people. They don't really take atheism and the conclusions of evolution and unintelligent design and all that in the logical way, right? So, yeah, so I was convinced, but then again, I was always rebellious. I was always reading books and stuff that, you're not allowed to read that book. You can't do that. And most people are conformists. Most people, if it isn't on the TV, they're not gonna consider the viewpoint. And like I said, our inability to stop infighting, our inability to get along, our inability to network. Yeah, we're probably, with all of our mental cognitive problems, we're not going to form political parties or do much of anything. That, yeah, most of us are pretty goddamn useless, and I myself included. We're not of much use. And I was even talking about this with Flyora. This was way back, though, and I've probably already mentioned this, but she talked about how, yes, this philosophy is of no real benefit to us, like personally, right? We're not making any real connections or friends. It's not putting more money in our bank account. It's not giving more time to our life. It's not really adding any real value. It's of no personal benefit. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I've said it many, 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 many times, is that we only care about ourselves. So the motivation isn't there. The willpower isn't there. But yes, it's doable. People can be convinced. And with nuclear weapons and birth control, it's entirely possible. We could completely nuke this planet, drill a hole into the center of the earth, hundreds or thousands of miles deep, put a bunch of nukes all over the place and blow this fucker up. It's possible. It's doable if there was a collective motivation and will and effort. It's doable. With birth control, yes, we could just phase out having children, sort of be like the last generation here and all that. It's doable. People are convinced. I'll still make videos and argue some of the arguments, and I do talk to people and, try to convince them and stuff. But yeah, just due to our own stuff, we're not going to make it happen necessarily. I don't, and so, yeah, Efilism, yes, it's just also something that it's also like a kind of a death cult. There is that element to it. And there are a lot of religions, though, that are like death cults, like some of the Buddhism stuff that you can get into. Yeah, they're kind of a creepy death cult. And there's certain sects of Christianity that, yeah, they're kind of a creepy death cults, that it just isn't. Yes, it can all be kind of bleak and horrible and too tough to accept for most people, but it is entirely doable. But I just don't think we have the parts, most of us, to do it. We can't even get along for 5 minutes, that we're not going to make it happen. And so at the end of the day, yes, we're kind of forced into this position. Well, like somebody like me, I would have never have had children anyway with my autism. Historically, yes, I would have been a priest or a monk. And I've said this many, many, many times. I just don't happen to be a priest or a monk because I consider these religious institutions and all higher authority to be corrupt That's sort of why I'm in the bind I am. But yes, historically, I never would have had kids anyway. So I would have been out of the game, 150, 100 years ago. I never would have had a family or played the normie game because I'm not normal, because I got a cognitive problem. And so I admit that that is like an inherent bias of mine. It is sort of clouded my thinking and my judgment that I don't know the truth, you know? Um, but yeah, I just don't think we're gonna make it happen from what I see of the community. That yeah, I don't know. It's so yeah, like really the best we can do as individuals is just, yes, become as self-sufficient as possible and get off the reservation. Stop playing the game as much as possible, or yes, check out. That probably I've gotten to comment arguments with people that I focus on certain things that we can control, like the right to die. Like I volunteer and donate to Final Exit Network. I donate to Dignitas. I donate to Dying with Dignity Canada, which is a local one that I support more. I've gone to events. They lobby the government, yes, for the right to die, so that anybody that's been forced here, that doesn't want to play anymore, that's terminally ill or whatever their circumstances, yes, you should have access to just get the fuck out of here. And that really, I think the strategy, at least in the present and the now, is that there's a lot of people having children that are sort of in the wishy-washy category, where they're not, 100% committed to it. They're doing it, they're having children to keep up with the Joneses. They're doing it because their neighbors are doing it. They're doing it because their parents are doing it. And people around them are doing it in some sort of bigoted way. But they're not really super invested in it. They don't really care. And my parents were much the same way. Like, my mother wanted to have a kid, but towards the end of her life, yeah, once she saw that, oh, yeah, her parents died, and her lovers and boyfriends left her because she was getting old and saggy looking, and she was lonely and retired and didn't have any friends or anything, and started seeing the shitty side of life. She kind of lamented it and regretted it. Same with my father, that his contribution to it was that he wanted to basically fuck without a condom. Otherwise my father, I think he would have just been some kind of an artist or an intellectual or something. He was never really 100% committed to it. And my parents were convinced by, environmentalist arguments that, like, only have one kid, right? Zero population growth, which isn't anti-natalism, but it's fairly close. So yeah, there's people in these categories that, yeah, they're having kids, but then yes, that we subsidize it all over the place, right? We, like, especially in my country, right, the kids get discounted bus tickets and discounted this and discounted that. Free lunches at school. The cost of having a kid is subsidized at school. Like, a third of the cost is subsidized with the public education system and other incentives. We got to basically pay people to have kids, and we definitely got to stop doing that. And like I said, there are all of these wishy-washy people. There's these people that they're not religious, they're not, they're not spiritual, they're not anything, they're not particularly 100% invested in any of it. They're just not thinking about it too hard one way or the other. And also, people are doing it when they're really young, when they haven't seen a lot of the shitty aspects of life. They haven't been ghosted and dumped enough. They haven't seen enough of their relatives die and stuff, and formed any real attachments to people that, once you see, everything you care about, something is going to come and take it away here. You're not going to win in the end. And it's a kind of also a denial. But like I said, people are doing it when they're young, when they're 16, they're having a kid, because they don't know any better, because they haven't played enough of the game yet to actually acquire that practical wisdom from having lived a life and seeing stuff going on around them. And also just because, yes, there's this impulse just to have sex, which is sort of a trickery. It's sort of conning us into doing it. When, yes, the desire really is just to have sex. It's not about making the babies, but it's associated, and it always has historically. The connection is there, that sex, the inevitable consequence of sex is, of course, having kids. So like I said, we got to get people out of the wishy-washy category. That I wouldn't argue to people, life is suffering and life is horrible and this and that, even though I've already sort of said that and I happen to agree with that. What I would say to people is that I'm not pro people not having children. I'm anti-expensive. I'm anti-expensive. So I would say to anybody considering having a kid, Disneyland isn't free. Nothing's a free lunch here. Nothing's a free ride. And that's even why our society is having so many problems, because it seems to be this mass delusion on both the left and the right politically that there's somehow a free lunch somewhere, right? Like the right wingers, a lot of them think, oh yeah, Jesus is going to come down from the clouds one day and save our sorry asses. And Jesus will in the end provide some sort of rough semblance of a free lunch, when no, that's probably a fairy tale. Although there's the astrotheology and Christianity, that's a whole other subject that I've talked about. But and that's true. The themes in it that are true. But then the left wing people, yeah, they want a UBI and they want all this stuff, and they think it's, people are just gonna go out and work and volunteer out of the kindness of their heart, and you don't have to give anybody an incentive to do anything, and it can all be free, and no one has to pay for anything. And you'll just look at our society, the mass, the craziness, right? Like the total debt, the government debt in the United States owed to the government, which the government owes it to the rich. The national debt is like 28 trillion or something, 26 trillion, something like that. And then you add up all the other debt, the car loans and the student loans and the mortgages and credit cards and all that. The total debt's like 40 trillion, a debt that can never be paid off. And, even in the last 6 months, the United States spent like $4 or $6 trillion, and like trillions of dollars, like a trillion bucks, you could stack like dollar bills, and it could go up to the moon and beyond. Like we just don't get the numbers. Like we're just not grasping that. Yeah, someday somebody's gonna come and collect those pieces of paper that say you owe me labor and you owe me physical stuff, and they're gonna come and collect. And it's just people don't want to grow up or accept it. Yeah, it's not free here. So yes, I'm anti-expensive. If you're having a kid, yes, you should be on a mission from God. You should be completely 100% committed to it. You shouldn't be wishy-washy about it. You should be really, completely devoted to it and raising that kid up until the age of 16 at the bare minimum. And yes, providing it for it like a quality life, providing it a high school education and paying the bills and paying all the medical insurance and education and all the other costs associated with it. And that if we stop subsidizing it and incentivizing it and stopped believing in a free lunch, a lot less people would be having kids. Like the way that it's always made sense to me is that, yeah, do I really want to be pushing around a baby stroller and changing poopy diapers? Do I really need that fucking headache in my life? What's the value? What's the benefit to me? And there's none, but then I'm biased because of how I was raised and grew up, that my parents got divorced, all sorts of family drama. I have aunts and uncles and cousins and people that don't talk to me. I don't see what the happy family is. I never did. I don't get that. Like I see commercials for it on the TV of like the mother with the baby and they're waving to the father over the video chat, and it's the happy family. I don't know what the fuck that looks like. So yes, I have an inherent bias that I just don't see it. I just don't get other people, and I just don't get the need for it. Yeah, why would I want that expense? It's all just going to be money coming out of my pocket, and that's money I could spend on, hookers and cocaine, even though I'm not doing that anymore. But, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, like on some Rugrat, and really telling people that, yes, the cost, if you do it properly in the Western world, the cost of having a kid is between $100,000 to $250,000. Like I said, and that may or may not include a trip to Disneyland, and Disneyland isn't free. Happy time isn't free. And that maybe if we passed laws that we could affect and say, well, yeah, you can have a kid, but you got to have that $100,000 in the bank. And like I said, stop all the subsidies for it, stop all of this, the taxation for it, stop the public education being subsidized for it. There'd be a fuck of a lot less people doing it if you had to pay the full cost. If you had to take full responsibility and accept, yeah, it's not a free lunch. So yes, like I said, it's you can go ahead and have your kid, but yeah, you should fucking pay for it. Why should it come out of my fucking pocket? Because you want to play God. and stuff like that, so that we could advocate for those policies. So the right to die and not subsidizing it anymore are two things that I think we should focus on, that those could be accomplished even in our lifetime. Whereas, yeah, I don't think people are going to accept all the other depressing arguments that life is this and life is that, and life is all suffering and life is this. I just don't like the price of everything. Like, I could be totally amused. I've said it before in some of my other videos. I could find, like, you know, thousands of erotic scenarios and fantasies that I'd love to play out. I just don't like the cost. I could figure out all sorts of places I'd love to travel to and go here and go there, but it's all preposterously expensive, and you don't need to do it. And the truth is, yes, you don't need a good time. You need to not have a bad time. But yeah, like, I'm not bored here. I don't see that, I can still say, okay, yeah, that's a pretty sunset, and that's a this, and that's a that. Like, there's aspects of life that I enjoy. I just don't like that while I'm enjoying certain things, that, yeah, some kids dying of cancer, stuff like that. But unfortunately, yes, a lot of us are coming to these views from a sort of selfish viewpoint. Like, when I first got into it back in 2011, 2012, I had broken up with a girlfriend and stuff, and saw some relatives of mine die. And it was through personal reasons, through my own pain and my own grief, that I came to this viewpoint. It was from a fundamentally a selfish perspective. And I think we need to appeal to people's inherent selfish perspective. I think people will only not have children for selfish reasons, not for selfless reasons. Ayn Rand, again, I've talked about her before. There's a quote attributed to her where she talks about, being compelled to breed is like being put on a breeding farm, something to that effect. That she didn't argue that life was crap or anything. She just saw that, yes, the civilization had sort of chosen this course that was not very good. And she wrote these novels, right, where the society collapses because all the people with brains sort of leave and they form a new society. But she even knew that, yeah, what's in it for me having a kid, right? What's in it for me? What do I get out of it? I can't think of anything, but people are invested in trivial crap. Like, they're invested in, their last name has to live on into the future. The family name has to live on to the future, as if people are going to give a shit or even remember, because it's not a widespread realization that people only care about themselves. Most people don't even accept that. Most people are committed to at least a facade, a veneer of altruism, that we care about each other. Well, no, we don't. We don't really care about each other at all. We only care about ourselves. And people don't even want to accept that truth. At least Ayn Rand accepted that, and she didn't have children for her own selfish personal reasons, because it was like, yeah, it's like, do I really want to spend all that money on baby strollers and baby formula and diapers and stuff? Is that really going to be me having a good time? Do I really want to do any of that crap? No, I'd rather go do something else. Same with Camus, even though I don't agree with Albert Camus that Civicus is happy pushing up the boulder. Yeah, he just is like, yeah, I'm going to go have a coffee and smoke a cigarette. I'm not interested in playing this traditional values crap game. And they just got to that laziness through their own just thinking about things a little bit for their own selfish reasons. And I think that's the appeal. Like I said, appealing to people's own selfishness is probably the way to go, to convince more people to not do it anyway. And like I said, the people that are having children, it should only be the most totally committed and totally brainwashed to it that should be doing it. Not, some drug addict doing it, some drug addict prostitute woman that needs a kid like they need a hole in the head, and other people that are, like I said, on the fence or wishy-washy, or, they're not really totally invested in any of this stuff. They're just doing it because their neighbors are doing it, and that's the appeal. I don't really think Efilism's going to take hold. I think more people will be more the sort of weak, soft anti-natalists, where they're just not going to do it for their own reasons. And, right, like Benatar and Magnus Winding and stuff. And even though I agree with Amendum, yeah, there's not much you can do to change that. The fact that, yes, we're all just a bunch of selfish assholes. And I think, yes, appealing to those sort of arguments, like the cost and the the telling people, yep, there's no free lunch and we only care about ourselves and stuff like that is more of the appeal that we need to make, as opposed to something like Efilism to convince people that there's all this suffering going on when, yeah, we don't really care. Like when I go walk on the street and I see the homeless guy passed out, I don't really care about him. But I could realize, oh, wait, that could be me. And that, yep, that's a failure there. And that used to be a cute baby, somebody's cute baby, and whatever, it got fucked up, and they're now a bum passed out on the street. I don't really, and some sort of empathetic, oh yes, I'm Mahatma Gandhi or Mother Teresa, that I care so much about the poor and welfare of others. I just realized, oh shit, that could be me. And oh shit, this stuff is really expensive here. It's not free. I would just be making another mouth to feed, and I don't want to fucking pay for it. I don't, pay for my own groceries. I don't want to pay for somebody else's groceries. Fuck off. That's really what's in the end convinced me. Like I said, my own personal selfish reasons. So I'm just sort of repeating myself here, but yeah, I don't think Efilism's going to take hold. Although I was convinced that, I don't know, there's just those, like I said, those two delusions. So yes, focus on the right to die and focus on promoting, selfish reasons to not breed, and focus on those two things. And then from there, try to sort of sneak in the other arguments for Efilism and anti-natalism, combine it with those two things. And then I think there would be at least some progress. And as Emendum said, it's only really the bottom 10-20% of the population that are responsible for the population growth. Everybody else, if we got rid of that belligerent, bottom 10%, it would all sort of just fall into place anyway. And I also see in the world all sorts of negative headlines that, yes, our civilization is slowly collapsing here. Everything I read is not very good, that we're in for some very hard times, and we're all going to get our wish soon enough anyway, that it will not be cinematic. It will not be pretty. There will be bloodshed. There will be suffering. It's really, really, really going to suck. But yeah, that's the future. The future is, we're already in some kind of a dystopia, that the future is just some dystopian fucking mess. And yeah, it's sort of like, we don't really have to do very much, that it's all going to fall apart anyway too. There is that other side of it as well. So yeah, that's basically my view of it. So, but not that anybody really gives a fuck what I have to say. Like I said, I get like 40 views on my videos. So yeah, I'm not really influencing anybody. I'm not really adding any value to the movement or the cause. I've done my best, but yeah, my best clearly isn't good enough. But yeah, I don't know. We're never all going to agree on something and work together, it seems. There's just too much infighting and too much crap. So yeah, I don't know. Anyways, that's my 2 cents, even though we don't have sense anymore. But you know what I mean. Anyways, yeah, Philosopher Stoner out.